I ended my 35th birthday being mocked as the family's wallet, so I drew a legal line that stunned everyone. But what followed next left them even more speechless in silence. At my surprise 35th birthday party, the air was thick with forced laughter and clinking glasses. My sister, Eliza, grabbed the mic before I even had a chance to find a seat. She always loved being the first one in any room to speak, especially when the spotlight wasn't meant for her. To my incredible brother, she chirped, lifting her glass. "Let's toast the man who funded my wedding, my degree, and my apartment. Seriously, what would we do without our family sponsor?" She smirked, and the crowd gave a scattered chuckle. I smiled, that calm practice kind, the one I'd worn so many times before while pretending her words didn't sting. Then I stood up, walked toward the mic, and took it from her gently. "Thanks for the kind words, Eliza," I said softly, then leaned in a little closer. "But just so everyone knows," I paused, making eye contact with our mother, our father, then Eliza, "not anymore." There was a beat of silence. Then I reached into my blazer and handed a sealed envelope to my lawyer, who had been standing by the bar, unnoticed until now. He nodded, tucked it into his case, and walked out the door without a word. 20 minutes later, every phone in the room lit up. I saw it ripple, people pulling their devices from purses and pockets, frowning, scrolling. A few glanced at me, some gasped. Someone near the back said, "Oh my God." And just like that, the silence returned, a new kind of quiet, sharp and echoing. I never set out to become my family's financial lifeline. It was a role that quietly settled over me, like dust on an unused shelf. As a kid, I was the one who held things together, the dependable one, earning straight A's, working a job at 16 to cover my own college applications, and always paying rent on time. Responsibility was my badge, worn proudly but heavily. Eliza, my sister, danced through life as the carefree spirit, unburdened by practicality. She flitted through 2 universities before dropping out, fell for a fleeting romance at Burning Man, married impulsively, and divorced within 6 months. When she returned home, tears streaming, with no savings or direction, I stepped in without hesitation, covering her first month's rent. It felt right then, noble even, to be the brother who could fix things. But that moment, that single act of generosity, planted the seed for a pattern I didn't see coming. I didn't realize I was signing up to be the family's anchor, tethered to their needs, my own dreams quietly deferred. Each time I helped, I told myself it was temporary, a way to show love. But love, I'd later learn, shouldn't feel like a ledger, tallying debts that would never be repaid. At the time, I had just gotten my first real promotion, assistant director at a mid-sized tech firm. I felt like I could finally breathe a little, help my family out, be the guy they could rely on. So, when Eliza called me one night crying about not being able to finish her design degree because her loans didn't come through, I said I'd cover it. Just this once, I told myself. It wasn't. Over the next 5 years, just this once became a pattern. $3,200 for her tuition, $8,000 for her wedding when her fiancé's family had nothing, $1,500 to fix her car after she hit a pole texting, $2,400 when she decided to take a break from her job to find herself again. And every time it came with some variation of, "I swear I'll pay you back," or "This is temporary." The payback never came. My parents weren't exactly cheering me on to stop playing the family bank. "You're the stable one," Mom would say, her voice dripping with that mix of pride and expectation, like I was born to carry the load. "Eliza's just struggling a bit more than you. A bit, sure, if you call crashing through life with zero accountability a bit. Dad? He was no help either. He'd just shoot me these silent, heavy looks as if my success was some debt I owed them, a direct result of their parenting. Genius. And footing Eliza's bills was my way of saying thanks. Never mind that I'd scraped through college, juggling 2 jobs to pay my way, while they gifted Eliza a shiny MacBook for her so-called design work. That thing gathered dust for months while she swirled paint into abstract circles, calling it therapy, as if I hadn't spent years funding her chaos. Yet, I kept shelling out, because when you're the one who's got it together, everyone just assumes you can handle more. More weight, more excuses, more of their messes. It's like they thought I was built for it, a human safety net with no breaking point. But it wasn't just Eliza. After a while, my parents started leaning on me, too. When Dad's business hit a rough patch, he called and asked if I could spot him $10,000. Just until next quarter. I wired the money that afternoon. When Mom needed help covering medical bills, I paid without blinking. I wasn't rich. I just budgeted carefully, avoided luxuries, said no to things I wanted so I could say yes to them. And the truth? I didn't resent it at first. It felt good to be needed. It felt like I had finally earned their approval. But slowly, things shifted. It stopped being gratitude and started being expectation. Eliza began calling less to ask, more to notify. We're thinking of taking a trip to Tulum. Can you help us with flights? I'm thinking of moving again. Can you co-sign the lease? I need a new laptop. My old one's just too slow for my creative flow. I started saying no more often. And that's when the guilt began. Oh, so now you're too good for your own family? Don't forget who helped raise you. You think your success just came from nowhere? I still remember one night 2 years ago when I'd just gotten home from a 12-hour shift and Eliza texted, "Emergency, please call." My heart dropped. I called immediately, afraid something terrible had happened. Her emergency? She needed $500 to pay for a last-minute tattoo removal appointment because she had an interview and didn't want to look unprofessional. I said no. She cried, then texted Mom, who called me saying, "Just help your sister, she's doing her best." I almost laughed. Her best. That's when it started to crack for me, when I realized I was being emotionally blackmailed by my entire family. But the real breaking point was last year. I'd spent months planning a trip to Japan, my first real vacation in almost a decade. Everything was booked, flights, hotels, tours. I was counting down the days. 3 days before my flight, Eliza called in tears. She'd been evicted again. She needed a place to stay. And somehow that place was supposed to be my apartment. "But I'm leaving," I said. "You can stay at Mom and Dad's." They said no, she sniffled. "Please, just leave me the keys. I'll be gone before you get back." Against my better judgment, I agreed. When I got back 2 weeks later, my apartment was trashed. My bathroom sink was cracked, the freezer was left open, and my favorite watch, a gift from my late grandfather, was missing. She claimed she had no idea what happened. Maybe the door wasn't locked. That night, I sat in the dark for 2 hours, just staring at the wall. I was done. Done being the backup plan. Done being the fixer. Done being the family ATM. So, I started planning quietly. I began gathering receipts, emails, texts. I made copies of bank transfers, compiled a spreadsheet, listed every payment, every gift, every favor. Then I called the lawyer. At first, he looked confused. "This isn't illegal," he said. "I know," I replied, "but it's over, and I want it official." We drafted a cease and desist letter, nothing threatening, just a formal notice stating that I would no longer provide financial assistance to any family member and that any further requests would be considered harassment. It sounded cold, but I needed boundaries, real ones. Then I planned the birthday party, not because I wanted a celebration, but because I wanted a witness list. The room went dead silent after the phones lit up. People glanced around nervously, unsure what to say. Some whispered, a few backed toward the walls, like they were expecting the ceiling to collapse. Eliza's smile cracked first. "What was that?" she asked, still gripping her champagne flute. Her voice was shaky now. The smirk was gone. I stepped back up to the mic, but I didn't need it anymore. The attention was already mine. "That," I said, was a formal notification from my attorney. "Effective immediately, I'm no longer providing financial assistance to any member of this family." Gasps. "You'd think I just announced someone died." Eliza's eyes widened. "Wait, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the end," I said. "Of being treated like an ATM, of carrying the weight so the rest of you don't have to grow up." "You're joking," she said, voice rising. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm dead serious." Eliza stormed toward me, her heels clicking like gunshots. "You're just going to cut me off after everything?" "Everything." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the debt I've been covering for 10 years? The apartment, the tuition, the wedding, the bail?" Her face turned red. That was one time. I didn't flinch. One time too many. My dad finally spoke up from the side. "Son, this isn't how we handle things in this family." "No, Dad," I said. "You're right. We don't handle anything in this family. We just pass it to me and pretend it'll magically fix itself." "You're overreacting," my mom said quietly. "This is your birthday. Can't we just celebrate?" I turned to her. "Do you even know how many times I've canceled my own plans because one of you needed something?" Silence. Eliza needed rent. Dad needed a loan. You needed help with medical bills, and I gave every time. I scanned the room, uncles, cousins, coworkers, all now awkwardly looking at their feet or their phones. "Eliza," I said, turning back to her, "do you know what I was doing the night before your wedding?" She blinked. "What?" "I was working, because you didn't have enough money to cover the catering. I pulled an all-nighter on a project to get a bonus just so you wouldn't be embarrassed walking down the aisle." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. "I canceled my own vacation for you. I gave up a down payment for a home so you could finish your last semester. And what do I get in return?" I said, "Thank you," she muttered. "Once, over text." I looked around the room again. "None of you have asked how I'm doing in years. You just assume I'll figure it out, and I have, but not anymore." "Wait," Eliza said. "What about the kids? You're just going to abandon your niece and nephew?" "Don't," I said firmly. "Do not drag your children into this." "You think this makes you a hero?" she snapped. "Sending a letter, making a scene?" I'm not trying to be a hero, I said. I'm just done being your crutch. That's heartless, my dad said. No, I replied. What's heartless is using someone until they break and then calling them selfish when they stop. Eliza looked ready to scream. You're going to regret this. Families stick together. No, I said. Healthy families support each other. This has been a one-way street. I pulled my phone out and opened a message thread with Eliza. January 5th, I said, $11,200 for your rent. March 18th, $800 for car repairs. May 2nd, $1,000 for emergency vet bills that turned out to be for a spa weekend. You want me to keep going? Stop, she said through gritted teeth. I have every receipt, every Venmo, every email. You think I wasn't keeping track? You're making a scene, my mom said. No, I said calmly. I'm drawing a boundary. Someone in the back cleared their throat. It was my cousin Derek, who had been quiet all night. Honestly, he said, I wish I had your guts. My brother's been leeching off me for years. This is brave. Eliza turned to him. Seriously? More murmurs in the room. I realized then it wasn't just me. People were listening, and not everyone was judging. My lawyer had made sure the notification was sent to every major family contact. Anyone who had borrowed from me or benefited indirectly got the memo. It wasn't just a letter, it was a line in the sand. You'll regret this, Eliza repeated, quieter now, almost a whisper. I shrugged. I already regret letting it go on this long. Then I turned off the mic, handed it to the DJ and walked out, not in a dramatic movie scene kind of way, just calm, certain, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't apologizing for setting a boundary, and it felt good. I didn't go back into the party, didn't answer the dozen texts Eliza sent within the hour, didn't respond to my mom's voicemail saying I'd humiliated the family. Instead, I went home, took off my shoes, fed my dog, and watched a documentary. For the first time in years, I didn't feel a tight knot in my chest. The next morning, I woke up to 87 unread messages. Some were from extended family. A few were supportive. I had no idea it was that bad, or good for you. Others, not so much. Uncle Dan called me ungrateful. Aunt Lori told me I destroyed the family bond. But most people were quiet. Eliza, of course, blew up my phone. Her messages went from angry to guilt-trippy to straight-up desperate. I didn't mean it like that. You know I love you. We can talk about this, right? The kids don't understand why you're being so cruel. If you don't help, I don't know how we're going to survive. It was always the same formula, praise, panic, pressure, but I didn't reply. Instead, I sent one final message, I wish you well, but my answer is still no. Then I blocked her. I thought I'd feel guilty, but all I felt was relief. The fallout came quickly. My mom and dad didn't take the news well. My dad texted me a long paragraph about how family doesn't turn its back, ending with, "You'll always be my son, but I'm disappointed." My mom tried calling me every day for a week. I didn't answer. Finally, she left a voicemail saying, "We're not perfect, but we're still your parents. Don't throw us away." They still didn't get it. I wasn't throwing anyone away. I was just done being used. Eventually, the calls stopped. For the first time in my life, I had silence. Real silence. No one asking for money. No one trying to guilt me into fixing their problems. Just peace. I started sleeping better. Stopped clenching my jaw at night. I finally booked that trip to Japan again, solo this time. I ate ramen in a back alley shop in Kyoto, watched the cherry blossoms fall in Ueno Park, and stood alone on a mountain trail in Nikko thinking, this is what it feels like to breathe. Back home, things shifted. A few months later, my cousin Derek reached out, the one who'd spoken up at the party. Hey, he wrote, just wanted to say you inspired me. I told my brother I'm done funding his nonsense. He called me a jerk, but honestly, best sleep I've had in years. We got coffee a week later. Turned out we weren't the only ones. There were others, cousins, friends of friends, who'd spent years playing the same role I had, the fixer, the responsible one, the wallet. It wasn't just me. Meanwhile, Eliza kept trying to work the angles. I heard through the grapevine she moved in with a friend temporarily, then tried to crowdfund her next project, a podcast about overcoming financial trauma. You can't make this stuff up. It flopped. Our parents eventually stopped defending her, at least publicly. My dad sent a short message 6 months later, hope you're doing okay. I didn't respond. My mom followed up a few weeks after that with an email titled checking in. It was polite, distant. She didn't mention money or Eliza, just said she was thinking of me. It felt weird, like they were realizing slowly that I wasn't coming back to the role I used to play. I wasn't angry anymore, just done. The healing started small. I started saying yes to things I used to say no to, dinners, hobbies, weekend trips. I enrolled in a cooking class, joined a local board game group, started going to therapy. My therapist said something that stuck. You were trained to feel responsible for everyone else's peace, but no one ever felt responsible for yours. That hit harder than I expected, because it was true. I'd spent so long keeping everyone afloat, I never stopped to ask if I wanted to swim with them in the first place. Now I'm swimming on my own. A year later, Eliza sent me a letter, a real one, handwritten. She said she didn't agree with how I handled things, but that she finally understood why I snapped. She apologized, sort of. Said she was working a steady job now, trying to be better. I didn't reply. Maybe one day I will, maybe not. Setting boundaries doesn't mean slamming every door forever. But it does mean I decide when and how they open. My 36th birthday was quiet, just a few close friends, a pizza, and a goofy cake shaped like a samurai helmet. No speeches, no one asked for anything, no one expected a wire transfer, just laughter, lightness. For once, the day was about me, and it was enough. It's been 16 months since the night I said, not anymore, since I passed that envelope to my lawyer, since I stopped being the one holding everything and everyone together. Sometimes I replay that moment in my head, the look on Eliza's face, the silence in the room, the way my hands didn't even shake. People say time heals everything. I don't think that's true. Time doesn't heal. It just gives you the space to rebuild if you're willing to do the work. And I've been doing the work. I've learned that guilt isn't love, that being needed isn't the same as being valued, that just because someone shares your blood doesn't mean they have the right to drain your spirit. For years, I thought saying no made me a bad person. Now I know saying no is what saved me. I used to measure my worth by how useful I was, how much I gave, how much I absorbed without breaking. I thought that was what family meant, sacrifice, selflessness, being the rock. But the rock doesn't get thanked, it just gets stepped on. Now I ask myself different questions. Do I feel peace? Am I choosing this or am I being pushed into it? Is this love or is it obligation dressed up as affection? It's changed everything. I no longer answer calls that leave me anxious. I no longer lend money out of guilt. I no longer attend family functions just to prove I'm still part of the unit. Because I am part of a unit, but it's one I built carefully, intentionally, with people who see me, not just what I can do for them. And the irony? The world didn't end when I stopped saving everyone. They adapted. Eliza found work. My parents figured things out. And I found something I hadn't felt in a long time, freedom. Not just from them, but from the version of myself I thought I had to be. People still ask sometimes, would you ever reconcile? Maybe if things changed, if the dynamic changed. But I don't owe that to anyone. I owe myself peace. That comes first. Now, the biggest shift? I no longer feel the need to explain myself. Before, every boundary came with a paragraph, a justification, a desperate attempt to be understood. Now, no is enough. I can't help what that is enough. I'm not available is enough. And if someone tries to guilt me, I let the silence speak. I've noticed something else, too. The people who respected the new boundaries, they stayed. Derek, my cousin, still checks in. A friend from work invited me to his wedding and didn't ask for a cent, just wanted me there. A neighbor I barely knew before now stops by with coffee and stories from her garden. These are the people I build with now. No demands, no keeping score, just mutual respect. I wish I'd learned this earlier. I wish I'd known that love without boundaries is just control in disguise. That giving without limits leads to burnout, not connection. But I know it now, and that's enough. The other day, I got a letter from someone unexpected, Eliza's ex-husband. We'd barely talked in years, but he wrote to say thank you. Apparently something I said to Eliza years ago about responsibility, about not relying on others to clean up your mess, stuck with her. She told him recently that she was finally trying to live differently, trying to earn things instead of expect them. He didn't know what happened at the party, just said he heard I'd drawn a line and he respected that, said it inspired him to set some boundaries of his own. That felt good, not because I need validation, but because maybe, just maybe, me saying enough gave someone else the courage to do the same. And that's the thing. They don't tell you. Setting boundaries doesn't just protect you. It shows others they can too. So here I am, 36 years old, no family drama on my phone, no secret financial burdens hanging over me. Just me, my dog, my job, my peace, and a calendar filled only with things I choose. The birthday party was meant to celebrate me, and in the end, it did. Not with gifts or speeches, but with a decision, a moment, a line. And I'm never going back. 16 months after the party, I got a small package in the mail, no return address. Inside was a children's drawing, crayons on cheap paper. A lopsided house, 2 stick figures holding, hands, one labeled me, the other uncle. In the corner, Emma, age 6. No note, no signature, just that. I sat with it for a long time, longer than I expected. I hadn't thought about Eliza's kids in months. I told myself they weren't my responsibility, that I couldn't save everyone, that distance was necessary. But holding that paper, I remembered Emma's laugh, the way Lucas used to fall asleep on my shoulder when they visited. Tiny things, real things. A part of me wondered, had Eliza sent it? Or had Emma found an old address? Either way, it hit me somewhere I thought I'd already closed off. I didn't reach for my phone, didn't run back to fix anything. But I put the drawing on the fridge just in case I ever decide to open a door.